Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and squirrels from all around the world. Wonderful, wonderful night to be here. It is really strange to get back, trying to get back into the groove of everything here. Because I have, been slacking, I guess. It has been, I didn't realize it until later. Oh, by the way, gummy bears like this. These are some pretty damn good gummy bears. I've never really been into like super sugary sweets, but these are pretty damn awesome. Give me just a second. Nothing like dropping shit on the floor. Anyhow, so yeah, 14. It'll be 14 days tomorrow that I hadn't done a stream on the Federalist Papers. I didn't realize it until I looked this morning. I was like, man, I need to set up another stream so I can continue on with this. Me being all slack. Hey, Danielle, good to see you. You and Malloy will be here in a bit, catching up a little. Hey, nothing wrong with that. You guys catch up. Malloy's good people. Playboy Malloy is the man. He's good. He's absolutely good. Danielle, you're awesome too. And of course, Rabbit, yes. Good to see everybody hanging out, chilling. Excuse me while I chew the gummy bears because it'll just make my teeth stick all together, and I'll just sit here and chew forever. So interesting. The company that made my 3D printer bought out the building that this originated from. So they call them Golden Bears since 1922 in the Czech Republic is where they founded. Of course, these in particular are now made in America and Germany and all that kind of stuff. But the original company was in the Czech Republic, the same place. Well, it was Czechoslovakia at the time. But, they actually bought out the warehouse so they could, because what they do is they print out all of their printers, like the plastic parts, instead of then they've got just printers running 24/7, just printing the parts out. So they can either assemble them or they can ship them out to people or whatever. And it's the software behind it that makes it really interesting. I actually have a request for a couple of nice little print models that people want, which would be MLS wanted to have a print done, which I think is going to turn out pretty cool. I'm going to do a smaller print of it to make sure that there's no issues like with artifacts and stuff like that. So if I'm going to print something, I want to make sure it looks the best that I can possibly get it before I send it to them. And then of course Captain Have Fun, nice guy, really nice guy, sent me a request that he wants to do a nice print. And all of those things will be disclosed at a later point in time. I can't talk about those tonight. But what I will talk about, because I'm a masochist and I'm only like 1/10 of the way through the Federalist Papers, but I think also going into this next election, and let me be serious about this here, going into the next election, I can almost feel it coming along that there's going to be these issues. Yes, it did. Valhalla's turned out great. It's absolutely awesome. There's going to be a lot of concentration on those kinds of issues. At least I would hope that there would be this discussion of you've got people like Tim Pool and people like that are constantly talking about, oh, we're going to be in the middle of a civil war, and the Federalist Papers talk very much. See, I just love these damn things. The Federalist Papers talk about this, and probably ad nauseum about the reason why you want to have a unified country. And that right there ends up being the most important part of this political conversation, is having a unified country. Like I've said this before. My wife and I are you know political opposites, but we also can see the necessity for being like-minded, and that's where people like Tim Pool fail. In my years of noticing this kind of shit, that it's almost like they thrive for this little bit of strife because it makes for great content. I mean, my my wife's family has a lot of drama in the family itself, just really weird little drama things. And luckily my wife and I tend to stay out of it. We just sort of watch from the sidelines and shake our heads. I don't know where I was going with that, but having political strife is not a bad thing. That's where I was going. Having for a point of election when we know the last presidential election was fictional. Maybe. I don't know. See, that's the thing, because you're not getting all the information, or the information isn't being told to you. It's like you have the information, but it's not there. And yes, but you also have to understand that it's not just one party that causes these problems. I think a perfect example would be the legislature. I believe it was in Michigan. All right. Legislature in Michigan passed something about writing ballots, and they couldn't get it corrected in time. It had to do with mail-in ballots, and a lot of those election issues had revolved around that. So, and that was something that the Republicans did. So it's both parties have some serious issues. A lot of it's just bloat. I mean, these folks that get into politics know that they have somewhat of a chance, either name recognition, or they've achieved some level of ass kissing, that they can now get the support of union reps, for example. So you the get that from the union reps, um, and that helps out your political campaign, your contributions. You're able to run a little bit longer election, and as long as you don't know what they're doing behind the scenes, you don't really care, because the money's flowing in, and it's good money. It's really good money. I fault both sides of it. There didn't know live. Sorry. No, that's okay. That's okay. You're all good, Rose. You're absolutely fine. Rose has been giving me all kinds of shout outs for Valhalla stuff. It's adorable. I love it. And ballot carrying, allowing the votes to come in for weeks after the election, still be monetized. Yeah. I mean, that is also going to happen both sides. That's not just one. It's politics. There's shady shit that goes on behind the scenes whenever you're dealing with that kind of money. I mean, let's put it this way: the amount of money that is spent on an election could feed a small country. Okay, so I think that politicians in general, should should find a wood chipper and jump in. But that's just my opinion. I have great support for people that I have support for. Do I agree with everything that they say and everything that they do? No, but sometimes you live and you learn. I mean, I found that out during the Bush presidency. Paying for that shit now. Yeah. Hard to type chat, but I'm watching that. That's cool. Don't worry about it. Tonight's going to be a pretty chill one. And, there's issues that go on behind the scenes that you don't see. So it can be really, really screwy. All politics are like that. I mean, you have to remember there was a lot of people that were not too interested in electing Jimmy Carter the first go around, and a lot of people definitely didn't want him go the second go around after he won. But you also have to look at like the status of the world at that period of time. You had a very large amount of people that were Democrat voters. They would just vote for the latest Democrat. And we saw that rise back up with George Bush, 1 and 2. Ronald Reagan, not the be all end all, as you find out, great orator, and did a lot of really good stuff in his presidency. I can think of, ending the Cold War, stopping the terrorists that were holding hostages on a plane for 300, 400 for years. You can give him a lot of credit, ending the airline strike that was happening. So there was a lot of stuff that he did going in, but was every decision that he made great, perfect? No. And I think that having these purity tests that a political group has is going to be the downfall of them, which I'm hoping to see. Because think about this. What's the purity test for Democrats? You support the trans movement. You support torturing kids and cutting off their junk and crap like that. And if you don't support human slavery and all that kind of crap, then you're not part of I'm just kidding. You're not part of one political party or the other. You end up, trying to pass these little purity tests. To be a Democrat, you have to pass, anti-gun laws because guns are bad and evil, and they jump off shelves and kill people just randomly. Like there's not people that are like a little bit cuckoo behind it. So you end up with those kind of issues of everybody wanting to have this purity test. With conservatives, it's no better. Well, do you believe in Jesus Christ more than the last guy? Do you disagree with abortion more than the last guy? So you got these purity tests that go on, and it's stupid. You should be not judging these politicians on, their level of conservative or liberal or whatever the fuck you're, judging them on, but you should be judging them on, the character of what they're actually doing, accomplishing and achieving. And I think that speaks much more than, saying, well, I believe in whatever X, Y, or Z, fill in the fucking blank. And that's what becomes more important, where it becomes undeniable that this person that you're voting for is the right choice, whether they happen to be or not. I mean, there's been many presidents have won by astronomical landslides where there was no doubt. And I think that if you want to see your candidate win a presidency, it doesn't matter what side you're on. If you want to see your candidate win a presidency, win by a landslide. Simple as that. Where there's just so many people that are turning out that it makes it absolutely impossible for anyone to have a disagreement that they didn't run a better campaign or do something that was much better. They didn't check all the little boxes, whatever it might be. And I think that's the best way to run your campaign. If you can get the support of all of the people, and make it where it's not this really tight race because you're in a blue state or a red state, and it's not talking about flipping people. I mean, that was one of the things that really shook up the whole process of it, was whenever Trump beat the hell out of Hillary. I mean, because she's projected to win. Don't listen to the projections. I mean, everybody's saying, "Oh, DeSantis is going to win." Oh no, you got Ramaswamy or whatever the fuck his name is. You got all these people that are running, and it's a money play. And once you realize it's just to do an underhanded bullshit, absolutely. And that's all I'm saying is there's underhanded stuff that goes on all across the board. So run a good campaign, and you don't have to cater to everybody. And I think that no matter what your political persuasion is, whenever you start realizing that your opponent isn't the be all end all evil, that they're just head of state. That's it. You have your local politicians, your judges, your school board, your city commissioners, all that kind of stuff right there leads more to controlling your every single bit of your day in and day out. The president is handling, a global issue. Your local politicians, your state senators, your governors, those people are the ones that are affecting you more. And if you pay more attention to those than who's going to be your next president, I think that you'll come out much higher. You'll feel like a big brain if I mean, think about this. Do you know who your city council members are? A city that you live in. You know who those people are? You know who those council members are? You know who's running your school board? Do you know who your tax commissioner is? The person that you pay every year to put a tag on your car. Do you know who, these people are that are actually running your everyday life without you knowing it? The people that it doesn't matter what kind of implement that the federal government does, and they follow those orders, and they lock your ass up in your house for, a couple of years and say, well, take this, it'll make you feel better. While you can't make any money, but yet they're still getting paid a nice fat salary. Do you know who those people are? That's I think a more important thing of knowing who your local politicians are, and actually, knowing what they stand for and what they're not necessarily what they're backing, but the kind of work that they're doing, the kind of underhanded shit that they might be into. I just watched a neat little documentary on what was it? The white boy? No. Kid 17 years old in Michigan. All right, Michigan, Detroit. He's right. Spent 20 plus years for facilitating moving coke, and it was pretty interesting. That documentary was pretty interesting. I mean, shit, if I was monetized, I would stream that movie and do like a Discord so everybody could see it, because it makes you really understand that there's people that have political ambitions, and they do things that aren't quite appropriate just to cover their ass. and they get in deeper than they know. Yeah. Make you feel better short term. Yeah, absolutely. But anyhow, so enough of my ranting and raving for the past 25 minutes, because I mean, I'll just go off all night about politics and bullshit like that. That really, in the grand scheme of things, does not matter. I mean, the if you're a Trump supporter, Biden supporter, Kamala Harris, Robert Kennedy Jr., whatever, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're happy with your decision, you don't have to defend it. If you're defending it, it just means you're not confident in the person that you're supporting, and you're looking for a reason not to support him. I think that if you're a supporter of a particular political persuasion, then it, you should follow that through. Become more informed about that particular person, and knowing who these people are, not to change anybody's mind, but not be lied to or accept a bullshit story about what's going on. I mean, you can find out that you can. It doesn't change your mind, but I think I was talking with the expert about this one night, because he asked me, out front. He was just like, so what's your political persuasion? I mean, if you don't mind asking. I was like, no, I've been voting Republican since I was, a eligible to vote. Doesn't mean that I actually would cast that in a general election. And I thought about it. I was like, no, there was a couple of times that I actually voted Libertarian, or other parties, because I agreed with the message that those people were putting out. I found them to be a better candidate. I didn't vote for Mitt Romney. I didn't find him a good candidate. I found him absolutely reprehensible. And so that was, how my voting went, or I wouldn't vote. So, there's you have to vote with a little bit of confidence of what you're going to do, and stand by it, and don't be ashamed of the way that you feel. How's it going, T3 Shelly? You shouldn't be ashamed of your political persuasion, but you also shouldn't think that, just because, say for example, I supported, Bob over here, and you found that, Sally over here was the person that you wanted to, run the country. Just because we don't agree on the person doesn't mean we have to disagree as human beings. We should be able to get along. And I think that's what the important part of the Federalist Papers is saying, listen, this is, we don't have to agree on anything, on every single thing, but there are some basic things that we should be able to agree on. That's what the Constitution was written for. We should be able to agree that there are some basic human rights that we should recognize. And, it becomes, let me take these things off, because it's just really loud in my ears. There's some things that we should be basically able to agree on and find common ground, and know that, there's just certain things you just don't do. You don't walk up to somebody and, start beating the hell out of them for no damn good reason. Hunted on some stream. No, you shouldn't feel hunted. Never. I know. I actually got to catch a good part of that this morning, Shelley. That was actually really good. I love that. That was a really good stream. I'm gonna go back and rewatch it. I just, my day was completely packed with getting work done for Mondays. You know how that is. But yeah, Shelley did a really good stream on what should be expected of women in the 1950s, and it was pretty damn awesome. I gotta say, that's why I can't wait to go back and do the rewatch on that. It'll be really good. It'll be really good. I'm sort of hoping that that she keeps up that content, because it makes it enjoyable. Hey Rebecca, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, you got some fine folks out here today. So what we've got is Federalist Papers. Yes, that's what we were doing today. So let me bring that up, because this is going to be an okay one. I found it pretty interesting, and for this one in particular, another one written by Alexander Hamilton. You have to remember that the Federalist Papers were written by multiple people. It was not just Alexander Hamilton writing these. But you can sort of tell by the way that it's written the difference in a lot of these folks right here. A little rough here, busy from 3 4. Okay, so we'll start out with this. And this is the Federalist number 11, the utility of the Union in respect to commercial relations and the Navy. To the people of the state of New York, you have to remember when this was written, there were still 13 colonies. It was not, you didn't have all of the states that did it. And these things are really freaking good. You didn't have all of the states that you have now. You didn't have the 52 states. You had the 32 colonies. You might have had another one or two that were just known as territories, Indian territories. So a little bit different. And if you take into consideration, they had no idea how vast the United States was until they started migrating to the West. And then they realized, damn, this is a pretty big, chunk of land. So, to the people of the state of New York, the importance of the Union in a commercial light is one of those points about which there is least room to entertain a difference of opinion, and which has, in fact, commanded the most general assent of men who have any acquaintance with the subject. This applies as well to our intercourse with foreign countries as with each other. They said intercourse. I knew you ladies would like that. There are appearances to authorize a supposition that the adventurous spirit which disguises the commercial character of America has already excited uneasy sensations. Damn, sounds like he's talking sex here. Maybe he just needed to get laid. In several of the maritime powers of Europe, they seem to be apprehensive of our too great interference in that carrying trade, which is the support of their navigation and the foundation of their naval strength. Those of them which have colonies in America look forward to what this country is capable of becoming with painful solicitude. They foresee the dangers that may threaten their American dominions from the neighborhood of states which have all the dispositions and would possess all the means requisite to the creation of a powerful marine. Impressions of this kind will naturally indicate the policy of fostering divisions among us and of depriving us, as far as possible, an active commerce in our own bottoms. Which just sounds kinky. Texas Jen, Malloy Raid. Wow. Welcome, you Malloydians, the playboys of the world. So good to see you. Really, it is awesome to see you guys. Hey, make sure that you reach down there, hit that like button, subscribe to it. You know the drill. Everybody says it all the time, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to get this thing up to 500 subs and a bunch of watch hours. So replay everything. I realized that today they must have kicked my playlist out, because I had a whole playlist of the Federalist Papers that starts out from the beginning of it. So we wanted to make sure that I want this to get out there. I don't think I'll get all of it done before the election, but I think it really ties into, helping people decide what really matters for this country and where they want to be. Whether it doesn't matter the political persuasion to me. What matters to me is that people are active and knowing what's going on with their government and make an informed decision. That matters most to me. Mr. Malloy, Playboy Malloy, the man, the myth, the legend. Mm-hmm. Sorry, these gummies are really good. And no, they're not like the hallucinogenic kind or anything. They're just regular gummies. See, yeah, good stuff. Nothing like shizness. Oh, hey. You know, the cool part is I can actually hear Malloy's voice whenever he types in there because he's awesome. Where was I? Here we go. Of an act of commerce in our own bottoms. That just sounds so weird. This would answer the threefold purpose of preventing our interference in their navigation, of monopolizing the profits of our trade, and of clipping the wings by which we might soar to dangerous greatness. Did not prudence forbid the detail, it would be difficult to trace by facts the workings of this policy to cabinets of ministers. If we continued united, we may counteract a policy so unfriendly to our prosperity in a variety of ways by prohibitory regulations, extending at the same time throughout the states. We may oblige foreign countries to bid against each other for privileges of our markets. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? This assertion will not appear chimerical to those who are able to appreciate the importance of the markets of 3 millions of people, increasing in rapid progression, for the most part exclusively addicted to agriculture, and likely from local circumstances to remain so to any manufacturing nation. And the immense differences there would be to trade and navigation of such nation between a direct communication of its own ships and an indirect conveyance of its products and returns to and from America in the ships of another country. Suppose, for instance, we had a government in America capable of excluding Great Britain, with whom we have at present no treaty of commerce, from all our ports. What would be the probable operation of this step upon her politics? Would it not enable us to negotiate with the fairest prospect of success for commercial privileges of the most valuable and extensive kind in the dominions of that kingdom? When these questions have been asked upon other occasions, they have received a plausible but not a solid or satisfactory answer. It has been said that prohibitions on our part would produce no change in the system of Britain, because she could prosecute her trade with us through a medium of the Dutch, who would be her immediate customers and paymasters for whose articles which were wanted for the supply of our markets. But would not her navigation be materially injured by the loss of important advantage of being her own carrier in that trade? Would not the principal part of its profits be intercepted by the Dutch as a compensation for their agency and risk? Would not the mere circumstance of freight occasion be considerable deduction? Would not so circuitous an intercourse facilitate the competitions of other nations by enhancing the price of British commodities in our markets, and by transferring to the other hands the management of this interesting branch of the British commerce? Oh, so he says, "Oh, you guys are awesome." Did you tweet this out? Yes, Rose, I actually did tweet this out. Of course, I'm not like, I don't have like that blue check or anything like that. So I'm only limited to the people like, like me, that are just complete and total plebes and have no say so in what happens in the Twitter sphere or on YouTube. We're just here to eat gummy bears and have a good time. I do hope by the end of the year I'm monetized, but if I'm not, I'm not really worried about it, because I like hanging out with you guys. I like hanging out with the expert in Cool Frog and Michael Malloy and T3 and Texas Gin, Miami Spice, and man, there's so many great people in this space. I'm reading one of his playlists. It's Course Beam. Jeez, that is a drag right there. I'll have to update the playlist. They killed my playlist that I had. I had all of this Federalist in one playlist. Now it's just like one. It's really weird. Thank you, YouTube, for doing something, I guess. And yes, Rabbit is correct. I'm also over on Rumble. Cool part about Rumble, you can always throw money over there at me. Holy crap. Speaking of Danielle, you didn't have to. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Danny just threw over there from saying, from your punk rocker, Danielle. Yes, you are my punk rock girl. Danielle reminds me of some of my favorite people that I used to hang out with all the time. And as I've gotten older and I've become more of a comfortable dog living in his comfortable little dog house, that I just haven't been able to hang out with as much. But the good part about it is all of my punk rock friends that, you know, we were of the ride and die kind of attitude where it was just like, you know, punk rock forever, fuck the system. Whenever I was just like, you know, I've gone as far as I can in this, and I actually have bills to pay. that they still stood by me with that, and those people reach out on a regular basis, and we have a good time. We talk about the old times, and you also realize that those same people, you know, they were just like, yeah, I'll always be punk rock, but I realized that I have a life to live, you know, and you know, it's nice knowing where your next meal is coming from and having a roof over your head, because, well, you know, there's only so much you can fight the system before you realize that the system is there for a reason. But the attitude is always there. The punk rock attitude is always there, regardless. Back to the Federalist Papers. I'm sorry, going off on my little tangents. And Daniel says, "Yep, I get it." Well, and that is the truth. Because you do get it, and there's only so much that you can do, and it's not that you lose the attitude of being punk rock. I mean, you think about it, some of our founding fathers were serious punk rock before it was ever even hip. I mean, they fought the system. I mean, they went against Britain, like a serious empire that, you know, they were beholden to forever, and they fought that thing like a son of a bitch. And had they lost that battle, I mean, who knows where this country would be? Would it have been, you know, taken over by, you know, another country like Spain or the French, and just been totally dominated? Yeah. Oh, it's highly fallible. We have. You're awesome. You're awesome, Danielle. I just have to say you are the greatest. All right, back to this. A mature consideration of the objects suggested by these questions will justify a belief that the real disadvantages to Britain from such a state of things, conspiring with the prepossessions of a great part of the nation in favor of the American trade, and with the inopportunities of the West India Islands, would produce a relaxation in our present system, and would let us into the enjoyment of privileges in the markets of those islands elsewhere, from which our trade would derive the most substantial benefits, such a point gained from the British government, and which would not be expected without an equivalent in exemptions and immunities in our markets, would be likely to have a corresponding effect on the conduct of other nations who would not be inclined to see themselves altogether supplanted in our trade. See, right there in that little sentence, that little paragraph right there makes so much sense. Especially if you think about in today's market, if the United States didn't have the kind of power and the kind of control that it currently has, I mean, everything is pretty much running off the US dollar. And that's not to be, hyperbole, I guess would be the word. I don't know. The word I'm looking for. Someone smarter than me could say that word. To have that kind of control, that if America, the United States of America was or their economy was to crash, how it would affect, not just the American people, but other countries, how it would affect Mexico, Canada, how it would affect European nations that are reliant on the European, not just the European dollars, but the American dollars, how much the Middle East relies on those American dollars. It goes to show how powerful that the United States is, and it's failing, it's economic failing, how much it can affect the rest of the world. And at the time that these were written, that wasn't even a thought or a consideration, except they knew that, this land that we currently abide in is, rich in resources, very rich in resources. So a further resource for influence the conduct of European nations toward us in this respect would arise from the establishment of a federal navy. So this is before there is actually the Navy. You're in the Navy now. There can be no doubt that the continuance of the Union under an efficient government would put in our power, at a period not very distant, to create a navy which, if it could not vie with those of great maritime powers, would at least be of respectable weight if thrown into the scale of either two contending parties. This would be more peculiarly the case in relation to operations in the West Indies. So what he's talking about in this little phrase is actually having ships, not just our actual fleet of traders, but having ships that would guide them through to the West Indies to conduct trade. Basically is having like your own little guide dog that just keeps everything in track and makes sure that you're not attacked by it wouldn't, at this point in time, it wouldn't be difficult for a ship from the British Navy to come flowing in and capturing the ship, taking everything off of it that was tradable, or just replacing the captain with somebody and taking whatever goods they wanted to, as to be assholes. And this is a little foresight of saying, hey, we can stop this from happening at this point in time. So a few ships of the line sent opportunely to the reinforcement of either side would often be sufficient to decide the fate of a campaign, on the event of which interests of the greatest magnitude were suspended. Our position is, in this respect, a most commanding one. And if to this consideration we add that of the usefulness of supplies from this country in the prosecution of military operations in the West Indies, it will readily be perceived that a situation so favorable would enable us to bargain with great advantage for commercial privileges, A price would be set not only upon our friendship, but upon our neutrality. By a steady adherence to the Union, we may hope, ere long, to become the arbiter of Europe in America and be able to incline the balance of European competitions in this part of the world as our interests may dictate. But in the reverse of this eligible situation, we shall discover that the rivalships of the parts would make them checks upon each other, and would frustrate all the tempting advantages which nature has kindly placed within our reach. In a state so insignificant, our commerce would be prey to the wanton intermeddlings of all nations at war with each other, who have nothing to fear from us, would, with little scruple or remorse, supply their wants by depredations on our property as often as it fell in their way. The rights of neutrality will only be respected when they are defended by an adequate power. A nation, despicable by its weakness, forfeits even the privilege of being neutral. Under a vigorous national government, the natural strength and resources of the country, directed to a common interest, would baffle all the combinations of a European jealousy to restrain our growth. This situation would even take away the motive to such combinations by inducing an impracticability, I can't say it, of success. An active commerce, an extensive navigation, and a flourishing marine would then be the offspring of moral and physical necessity. We might defy the little arts of little politicians to control or vary the irresistible and unchangeable course of nature. But in a state of disunion, these combinations might exist and might operate with success. It would be in the power of the maritime nations, availing themselves of our universal impotence, to prescribe the conditions of our political existence. And as they have common interest in being our carriers and still more in preventing our becoming theirs, they would in all probability combine to embarrass our navigation in such manner as it would in effect destroy it and confine us to a passive commerce. We should then be compelled to content ourselves with the first price of our commodities and to see the profits of our trade snatched from us to enrich our enemies and persecutors. That unequaled spirit of enterprise which signals the genius of the American merchants and navigators, which is in itself an inexhaustible mine of national wealth, would be stifled and lost, and poverty and disgrace would overspread a country which, with wisdom, might make herself the admiration and envy of the world, which I think that we've actually pretty well had accomplished by the end of World War II. We had pretty much, I mean, even well into the Cold War, we had established ourselves as something quite unique, that was, more powerful and a superpower that you didn't really want to mess with too much. I mean, the amount of trade that we could have was unreal. I mean, our trade was far reaching, and it's decreased quite a bit since then. And there's countries that are jealous of it, and they will do anything to make sure that we don't have that anymore. There are rights of great moment to trade of America, which are rights of the Union. I allude to the fisheries, to the navigation of the Western lakes, and that of the Mississippi. The dissolution of the Confederacy would give room for delicate questions concerning the future existence of these rights, which the interest of more powerful partners would hardly fail to solve to our disadvantage. And don't mistake the Confederacy with what you might be thinking of, the Confederacy of of the United States. You're not looking at that confederacy. It's a simple term, more of everybody combining together. It's different. So these rights would you more powerful partners would just here we go. Concerning the future existence of these rights, which the interest of more powerful partners would hardly fail to solve to our disadvantage. The disposition of Spain with regard to the Mississippi needs no comment. France and Britain are concerned with us in the fisheries and view them as the utmost moment to their navigation. They, of course, would hardly remain long indifferent to that decided mastery of which experience has shown us to be possessed in this valuable branch of traffic, and by which we are able to undersell those nations in their own markets. What more natural than that they should be disposed to exclude from the list such dangerous competitors? Oh, don't be embarrassed. I mean, I'm always embarrassed. I'm just that way. This branch of trade ought not to be considered as a partial benefit, as the navigating states may in different degrees advantageously participate in it, and under circumstances of greater extension of mercantile capital would not be unlikely to do it. As a nursery of seamen, this just sounds kinky, as is now, or when time shall be more nearly assimilated, the principles of navigation in the several states will become a universal resource. To the establishment of a navy, it must be indispensable. To this great national object, a navy union will contribute in various ways. Every institution will grow and flourish in proportion to the quantity and extent of the means concerted towards its formation and support. A navy of the United States, as it would embrace the resources of all, is an object far less remote than the navy of any single state or partial confederacy, which would only embrace the resources of a single part. It happens, indeed, that different portions of confederated America possess each some peculiar advantage for this essential establishment. The more southern states furnish in greater abundance certain kinds of naval stores, which would be tar, pitch, and at the time, turpentine. Their wood for the construction of ships is also of a more solid and lasting texture. The difference in the duration of the ships in which the navy might be composed is chiefly constructed of southern wood, would be of single importance, but I think they meant single, either in the view of naval strength or of national economy. Some of the southern and of the middle states yield a greater plenty of iron and of better quality. Seamen must chiefly be drawn from the northern hive. The necessity of naval protection to the external or maritime commerce does not require a particular elucidation, nor more than the conduciveness of that species of commerce to the prosperity of a navy. Lex, good to see you, Lex. Glad you could stop by. Really appreciate it. Whew. Yeah, we're almost done. Don't you stress. An unrestrained intercourse between the states themselves will advance the trade of each by an interchange of their respective productions, not only for the supply of reciprocal wants at home, but for the exportation to foreign markets. The veins of commerce in every part will be replenished and will acquire additional motion and vigor. Man, it just sounds all sexual. Motion, vigor. Damn. Next, we're going to be talking about pumps or something. From a free circulation. There you go. Free circulation of the commodities of every part. Commercial enterprise will have a much greater scope from the diversity in the productions of different states. When the staple of one fails from a bad harvest or unproductive crop, it can call to its aid the staple of another. The variety, not less than the value of products for exportation, contributes to the activity of foreign commerce. It can be conducted upon much better terms with a large number of materials of a given value than with a small number of materials of the same value, arising from the competitions of trade and from the fluctuations of markets. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we know what men had on their minds. Yeah, you always know what men had on their minds, but this is actually very important because they're talking about not exchanging money, but actually exchanging goods, almost in what would you call that now? A barter system. So this was something that was very important because think about this. At the period of time you couldn't get silk in the United States, but we could produce really good wood, had a lot of we always produce really good. We had a lot of grains, and also, but we didn't have the kind of manpower that we currently have. So in the South, they could easily, because they weren't as large of a population, that they could actually supply the lumber that would be going up to the northern states, and the northern states could build the ships because they have the talent behind them and the manpower. It's not just the talent, but actually having the manpower to do the work. I mean, think about this. I work from home, and this weekend I was building a shed. I'm building it building a deck around the shed. I'm building it by myself. It's going to take me twice as long as if there was a crew of 4 people out there that could, be cutting the wood, getting everything measured, cut, put in place, put it together. They could have it done in a day. But for me, it's going to take about 2 weekends to get it done because, well, it's just me. And I get tired. So you're moving a lot of material to the northern states where they have the manpower to build the ships, and they probably have seamen or captains of ships that are ready, willing, and able to take a ship out. They've been training for years, probably as an apprentice, and they know the waters, they know where the bad spots are, the places to avoid, and they're just tend to be much better sailors. So it would do best for these to work as a group, and having disagreements amongst them isn't going to do any good. Particular articles may be in great demand at certain periods and unsaleable in others. And I mean, if you think about that, what he's saying is, particular articles may be in great demand at certain periods. Say, for example, you get into the colder months, you may want to have something more like wool. Whereas you get in the colder months, you may want to have something that's more linen or lighter, keeps you a little bit cooler. So, but if there be a variety of articles, it can scarcely happen that they should all be at one time in a latter predicament, and on this account the operations of the merchant would be less liable to any considerable obstruction or stagnation. The speculative trader will at once perceive the force of these observations and will acknowledge that the aggregate balance of the commerce of the United States would bid fair to be much more favorable than that of the 13 states without union or without partial unions. And this right here is very, very thoughtful at the time, that somebody that has the will and the fortitude to actually go out and successfully navigate these kinds of trades, they're going to do really well. And, if you have 13 states that are working together, it just it makes it like superpower. It may perhaps be replied to this that whether the states are united or disunited, there would still be an intimate intercourse between them. Damn, talking about intimate intercourse between them, which would answer the same ends. This intercourse would be fettered, interrupted, and narrowed by a multiplicity of causes, which in the course of these papers have been amply detailed. A unity of commercial as well as political interests can only result from a unity of government. So right here he's saying having a unified government, and this was covered in 1 through 10. We're on 11, the Federalist Papers 11. This was, he's talking about everything that I've previously laid out. It's a unity of commercial as well as political. It can only happen from the unity of government. If not, you end up with just a bunch of infighting, and everybody that lives out in the country is looking at the city folks going, well, they're just not doing anything, and the city folks looking at the country folks and saying they're just not doing anything. They're a bunch of political or a bunch of redneck horrible people. And that's not the case. We're relying upon each other. We're relying upon the cities for the manufacturing. And, I think that one of the things that really ruined that was, the invention of fast food. Because, yeah, you want to have your meal quick, but I mean, the service sort of really lacks. I mean, think about this: sit down to a nice restaurant, like it doesn't even have to be a top restaurant, just a nice restaurant, and you sit down and you get like some of the best service as compared to whenever you go to McDonald's and it's like, yeah, what can I get for you? Different attitude, different kind of service. So anyhow, there are other points of view in which the subject might be placed of a striking and animating kind, but they would lead us too far into the regions of futurity and would not involve topics not proper for a newspaper discussion. I shall briefly observe that our situation invites and our interests prompt us to aim at an ascension in the system of American affairs. The world may politically as well as geographically be divided into 4 parts, each having a distinct set of interests. Unhappily for the other 3, Europe by her arms and her negotiations, by force and by fraud, has in different degrees extended her dominion over them all. Africa, Asia, and America have successfully felt her domination. The superiority she has long maintained has tempted her to plume herself as the mistress of the world and to consider the rest of mankind as created for her benefit. Men admired as profound philosophers have, in direct terms, attributed to her inhabitants a physical superiority and have gravely asserted that all animals, and with them the human species, degenerate in America, that even dogs cease to bark after having breathed a while in our atmosphere. That's pretty harsh right there. Facts have too long supported these arrogant pretensions of the Europeans. It belongs to us to vindicate the honor of the human race and to teach that assuming brother moderation. Union will enable us to do it. Disunion will add another victim to his triumphs. Let Americans disdain to be the instruments of European greatness. Let the 13 states bound together in a strict and indissoluble union concur in eradicating one great American system. Erecting Erecting one great, see, here we go, erecting one great American system superior to the control of all transatlantic force or influence, and able to dictate the terms of the connection between the old and the new world. And that right there is pretty deep, recognizing how much Europeans were affecting the United States. And it begs to show that America should not ever bow to another country. It's disrespectful to the people that founded this country, that worked in this country, that strive to becoming more than what this country at the time was in itself. It's important to know that we as Americans are only going to be as great as our weakest. You know, there's going to be people that do great things, and those people will always do great things no matter where they're at. But how does that saying go, that rising water, lifts all ships off the bottom? I mean, I was my wife and I, while we were in France last year, there are certain places at low tide, all of the boats just lay, on the mud. And that's how it is during the tide. And we owe how many? I don't know. How many do we owe? We owe too many governments. Too many governments a lot. And that's an important thing to consider, is that we're, as much as we have fought and bled and died and worked and suffered for this country, how much other people have given much, much more. And our greatness is dependent on even the weakest of our society. And it's good fodder. It's good fodder to make a joke out of the people that are the dregs and the useless. Sure, they might have some talents in other ways, but overall, they're not doing anything to really give us much more than entertainment. And it's always been interesting to me that an entertainer would have more political sway. It's like the court jester. Court jester always had the king's ear. If he was good, entertain the king, he might be able to give the king a little bit of insight into the status of his land, of what was going on. And that's all entertainers are now. It's not that they're smarter, they have any greater insight. Sometimes they actually have less, as has been shown over multiple years of the entertainment industry trying to interject itself in everyday life. Oh, you want to hear this? Oh, that's good. Oh, it's really good. And I found that, as a musician, I never really spoke too much about politics. Oh, my bandmates and I, that wasn't what we were all about. We were all about, entertaining an audience, playing some good music, having a good time. Ain't nothing but anyhow. And that's what we were interested in doing, is just, entertaining people. We weren't there to make a political statement. I think that there's a lot of people that forget there are bands that might be making political statements. And you can support them if you want to. You may be supporting them because you like their music. You may not agree with their politics. I remember distinctly going with my wife to an REM concert. And I was just like, yeah, I actually worked on some of the keyboards for the players for B-52s and REM, a couple of Farfizes and things like that. So I was like, yeah, it'd be cool. Go check a show with my wife. And of course, Stipe got, went into some political rant. I think maybe it was against George Bush or something. I don't remember. And the crowd actually booed. My wife got a little upset. She was like, "Why are they booing? Don't they know that they're political?" And I said, "No, they're booing not because they're political. They're booing because what he's saying just doesn't fit in with, the rest of logic. And that's why they're booing." I mean, that was my viewing of it. It was just like, yeah, I mean, he's saying stuff that, is disagreeable with his crowd. I guess maybe read your crowd a little bit better. I don't know. I mean, if you're going to go political, read your crowd a little bit better and know that, not everybody's going to agree with you, and be willing to accept the consequences of whatever, bullshit that you're spouting out. I don't expect everybody to agree with me politically or socially or anything. I do this because I enjoy giving a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of joy, a little bit of perspective. I mean, if you like my perspective, then, shit, hit the thumbs up, subscribe. No, that's what it is for me. That's what it's about. It's about having that little bit of, I guess werewolf, whatever, of knowing that there's, that we don't have to always agree politically on who would be your president or your state congressman or your representative. We don't have to agree on that. Not saying that you can't expect one of us, either you or I, to come back at each other and whenever they fuck up and go, "Told you so," because it does happen. And you shouldn't be offended by it whenever you see, your candidate or your politician that you were so into, and somebody goes, "I warned you, I let you know that this bad shit was happening, and you didn't want to hear me. Not were you listening?" To not take offense at it, because it's just a regular, job. It's making fun. I mean, I've been proven wrong many times by politicians, trust me, in my many, many years, knowing that, the views that I held at that point in time might have actually been more of the popular view, but they weren't necessarily good. And it wasn't all my fault on that, except I didn't research it deep enough. I mean, one of my most interesting things is, talking with my wife, and she'll constantly remind me of who signed the Patriot Act, of who made it impossible to go through an airport without having to kick off your shoes or throw your bag on a scanner, or get a full body scan. Who created that environment? What president passed those kind of resolutions that made air flight so much more difficult? I guarantee it wasn't a Republican. I mean, you might have had a Republican Congress that allowed it or wrote the law, but you still had that president that could have vetoed it and said, hell no. I just put it this way. Republican, Democrat, politicians, they're all the same. They're all out to make their money, to make their mark, a little bit of power. Hopefully they retire really well and they're happy to, live off that retirement benefit for the rest of their life. And they'll probably have, security around them 24/7 for the rest of their days. That's why they stay there till they're old. It's really easy to vote them back in. Yes, Nancy Pelosi, I'm talking about you, scumbag. Feinstein. They've been there forever. Put some term limits on them, and you'll see that things will change. How many people would be willing to run for Congress if they knew at the end of their first 4 years, if they didn't win re-election, that they would be launched into outer space? I guarantee they wouldn't do it. To not be able to influence things for their job in the future. There's a lot of these politicians, they get out of the regular work environment. They go out of politics, and they go into a regular work environment, and they become they already know what's going on. They already know what's coming down the pipeline. They're in with the little hip crowd. Sort of cheating, it's like having the kid in class that already had the answers to the test. It's like, who's gonna spend the most amount of money or give up whatever they possibly can just to make sure that they pass that class? Not your politicians. So, do I trust any of them? No, I don't trust politicians. I know that they're all crooked. Some different degrees than others, but you also have to, these are the people that are in control of your laws and of a lot of your life, more than you want them to be. And I haven't read the Federalist Papers before, and this is a good exercise for me because it's giving me more information, not necessarily to, be smarter than anybody, because I'm so far from that, but it gives me a chance to, view a different perspective from, what is it? A couple hundred years ago. Wow. I mean, you think about it, I'm not going to talk about that. That will just get my channel all demonetized. I might talk about it on Rumble at some point in time. It was a discussion we had last night in private chat, which is always something to think about. But I have to talk. I can't talk about that here. Yeah, that's that. I don't know. To me, that's a little bit disturbing. You would think that a place like YouTube or Rumble or any other platform would want that kind of discourse, to have those kind of conversations. But yeah, they don't allow that. So anyhow, that is the Federalist Papers number 11. And I'm just working my way down through. I think I'm about 1/6 of the way through. There's quite a bit in there, and it's I think it's good reading and good interesting stuff. And I know that we've got some people that are going to be doing their streams tonight. Go check them all out. I mean, God, there's so many people. I can't even keep track anymore. I mean, you've got everything from the expert to winning reality. Just, pick your flavor. Even if it's not the thing that you're into, but you actually like that person's content, just reach over, and see that, somebody's out there doing something And give them a little bit of a like. Watch it for like 5 minutes. Throw something in the chat. Just came by to give you a thumbs up and support you, because you may not agree with what they're doing at this particular time or what they're saying, but at some point in time, they said something that drew your interest and got you thinking, and and giving them that little bit of support means so much to them, because it helps out the algorithm. Some people are monetized. They may only be getting like 20 or 30 views on a stream, but you come by there and you increase that algorithm. You give it a couple minutes watch. You can just have it muted if you want to. Just give them a couple minutes watch, hit that thumbs up, and it lets the YouTube overlords know that that they've got something to show, that they've got something interesting to talk about. And some of it might mean science, I guess so. Everyone runs shizzy stuff in that. Let's get some. Oh, that's funny. No, that for me, and I'll say this in all seriousness. I think that for me, I like that you've made me work for it, that I've actually had to bust ass to put out some decent content, and keep the interest of people. And that right there is it's sort of that paying your dues kind of thing, where I've felt that some nights I've been completely off, not on top of my game, and it really makes me work harder and be a little bit better at this kind of material. Try to give you guys a little bit of value for you hanging out and being here. That right there means so much more. And like I said, if I'm not monetized, it's not going to change what I do. I also don't want to be I don't want to be like that, internet phenomenon where all of a sudden I've got, 1 million subs, and then I just don't do anything beyond that. I like doing the content that I do. I like hanging out with other people that are not even doing the same stuff that I'm doing. Just they've got their own take on the world, and hanging out with those folks means quite a bit more. I mean, I've said this before. If someone took my channel down and it completely went away and I wasn't able to stream here, I still got my Rumble channel. And if they took that down, I don't know, I would still survive. It's not like a be all end all kind of thing. I just enjoy getting this outlet out. I guess. I don't know, something like that. It gives me it's much better than sitting down and playing a video game, which I did a little bit this weekend, because I couldn't concentrate enough to have a cohesive thought. Might have been a little bit of the alcohol, which I've actually cut back on, because I'm not that I'm feeling the effects of it, but I think I went back and watched a stream, and I wasn't quite pleased with my train of thought. It seemed like I was getting distracted. I don't know. But anyhow, it's good seeing all of you fine folks out here. And thank you for coming by. I know that you guys are going to come by and check it out on the rewatch, which I appreciate that also. I'm also glad that you guys have really got Valhalla back on board, because he's like a natural as far as good people, and he's just fun. He's got goats, for Christ's sakes. I mean, what could be more like wholesome than that? He's like wholesome, which he would probably disagree. Fall out of your chair. No, I very much. Yeah, you work and are tired. We're lucky to have you on here, and your voice is the best. It hits some more before bed. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But no, I mean, you got people like Valhalla that are just, naturally awesome. You've got people like the expert, which, he just, just the giver. You've got Malcolm, Michael Malloy, the Playboy, which just is so much fun. I mean, he's entertaining. You got T3 that comes from life on a different perspective of a lot of other people, just from life experience. You've got Sweet Stephen fell out of his chair. Went too many. Yeah, you got Stephen Gosney, which knows a little bit about everything and writes a book about it. You've got Cool Frog, which, he follows politics that most people don't even pay attention to. You've just got all of these people, all of these content creators that have a different aspect. You got Legal Vices that talks about ships and shipwrecks and catastrophes and follows trials. You got Nick Ricada that does all of this, just, I mean, squirrel like kind of content. And it's just amazing that you've got all these people. You got Mighty Meat that does science and talks about rockets and crap like that. I know a little bit more information about it than that. You got Kaiser Pineapple that talks about movies, and you've got, people that talk about different stocks. You've got guys that are doing what they know and what they experience, and it's just it's so enjoyable to know all of these people in this space. And like I said, if my channel was taken off tomorrow, I wouldn't regret a single thing that I've said or done. You know, if I did, I wouldn't talk about it. I mean, I might have screwed up here and there, but I've enjoyed my chat, my peoples, all of the shows I've been on, all of the platforms that people have given me, and the time that I've spent doing this. So, I mean, all of this is possible because you guys come in, you hang out, and you show support. And I got Captain Have Fun that he's actually reached out to me because there's a couple of things he'd like me to do on the side, which I'm not going to talk about until it actually comes to fruition. And it's just great. It's really a good space, and I think that everybody in this space is valuable, and I appreciate every single one of the chat. Thank you again, Danielle, for the super chat or Rumble rant. Thank you again. Because I get money over there. YouTube won't pay me until I hit like, a certain amount of subs and crap like that. So, but I appreciate all of you guys. I am really tired. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night because, well, sometimes I'm just an insomniac and I like hanging out, listen to people like talk about things and give me a different perspective. And it's good. It's really good. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. And I'll leave you the way that I came in with a little bit of the bumper music. It's I actually enjoyed putting this one together because it's all about getting the timing right. And the same way with doing Valhalla's introduction stuff. It was that build up that I really enjoyed doing. And it only took me a couple of minutes every day to do it. But the reward for it, just watching it all come together was glorious. So anyhow, on that, everybody have a wonderful night. And tomorrow I will be doing another stream. Go figure. I'll be covering the John Todd tapes again. But it's coming along pretty good, and I've actually enjoyed that. So I'll be doing that tomorrow, and I know that there's Taco Tuesday that's coming up. Always with the expert, got that going on, and You know where to find me. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere that I know of. I don't think I've pissed off the YouTube gods bad enough yet. But if I do, I guarantee I'm over on Rumble. That's why I keep that channel up and running. So anyhow, everybody have a wonderful evening, and I will see you on the flip side. Peace, y'all. Peace.